Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to your all-new program, the Ummah, tonight brought to you by the first, the pioneer, and the premier Islamic bank in all of Nigeria. Of course, I'm talking about Jaiz Bank. I'm joined today by, as usual, with my co-host, my co-pilot, Brother Ahmed Fawzi. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brother Ahmed, in the first segment, you always have the press review ready for us. You always have the news pieces. So what do you got for the viewers today, inshallah?
Sure, we're having a lot today. We're examining various Islamic issues. Cisco conference in Egypt besides the Islamic Summit. Also we have an inquiry from UN. Israel must remove all settlers from West Bank, as well as we have frequent earthquakes, hurricanes, typhoons, and tsunamis are all in 1 week. It's an Islamic prediction. We're going to know more about this. And eventually we're having Bill 8 assassination sparks crisis, and Tunisian faces general strike.
Okay, sounds good, brother. Sounds like an interesting segment, inshallah. Let's start with the first piece. Go ahead.
So the 12th session of Islamic Summit Conference commended in its final communique the efforts exerted by the Islamic Scientific and Educational Organization, Cisco, in the field of its competence. We're speaking about the Islamic Summit Conference had examined various issues in this conference, on top of which are the Palestinian cause, the Syrian crisis, the ongoing event in Mali, Somalia and Afghanistan, the ethnic cleaning campaign against Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, and the unfolding of Islamophobia, and of course they spoke about culture, societies, and everything related to the Islamic world nowadays.
And wonderful, that's very interesting. A lot of news. Unfortunately, it's a lot of bad news for the Ummah as well, or sad news, but we have to address it. But brother, if you don't mind me getting in here and mentioning, the Islamic Summit was interesting this year because it featured a controversial visit of the Iranian president or former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, to Cairo, which made for a lot of news reporting and controversial television programs and talks. So that was interesting to see. I believe it was his first visit to Egypt, so that was interesting.
Yeah, it was the first visit, and you can speak about the unity between all Muslims, beside not mentioning any names beside the word Muslim. There is no Shia, there is no Sunni. So I think this is the first one to have this sort of unity.
Yeah, we definitely hope for this unity in the Muslim world, that's for sure. Having said that, Brother Ahmed, we do have a report in this regard, so let's check it out. You guys will be right back, right here on the Ummah Tonight.
We are keen on helping the Muslim minorities who live in the West and in other countries in Southeast Asia and the Pacific and Africa to improve their performance in teaching their kids in the schools, and also in the cultural field, and also in communication and integration among themselves. And we have succeeded so far in bringing all these people together in meetings, and for them we designed the strategy for the Islamic cultural activities outside the Islamic world. And within this strategy we formed the Higher Council of Education and Science and Culture for the Muslims. Besides that, Cisco also is working in its major program of the Islamic Cultural Capitals, which started in 2005. And the first city which was celebrated as the capital of Islamic culture was Mecca al-Mukarramah. And then we started celebrating every year 3 capitals, 1 Asian and 1 African and 1 Arab in every year. This year we have 3 capitals for the Islamic culture: Al-Madinah al-Munawwara in the Arab region, and Ghazni in Afghanistan in the Asian region, and Kano in Nigeria in the African region. And the purpose of this program is to bring up the glory of those cities, the contribution of its scholars all over the ages, preserving their monuments, and also holding activities in these cities to make the people of the Muslim world know a lot of knowledge about these capitals, so that this linkage between the past and the present can create an atmosphere of challenge and also of enthusiasm in the hearts of Muslims to be excellent in their work and to work vehemently on bringing improvement to their situations, to their problems, to their institutions, and to bring the Muslim Ummah forward in the competition in the world between the superpowers. We'll continue to work with all those good people, all good organizations in the world, to bring the reality of Islam, the bright face of Islam, the truth of Islam, the religion of guidance, of mercy, of openness, of knowledge, of excellence, of perfection to the world. And I hope we can succeed.
That was Dr. Abdul Aziz El Tawazri, the president of ISESCO, and of course, Brother Ahmed Fawzi. It's always nice to see the Muslim world mobilizing in events and having organizations looking to benefit Muslims from all around the world. So really, Allahu Akbar, it's a very nice report.
Yeah, I like the title they have in Arabic, Ida'a, lighting, and also to involve in Africa and these activities they mentioned. Bismillah, mashallah. We hope the best for those guys, and inshallah, we will be with them all the time to cover all their news, inshallah.
Okay, brother, excellent. I couldn't agree with you more. Brother Ahmed Fawzi, what do we have coming up next? What's our next piece of news?
The order of YouTube shut down, and Al-Azhar decided to launch a special website.
Okay.
So we're speaking about a big propaganda happened in the last few days about YouTube, and it's going to be cancelled or blocked from Egypt for about a month, and this order is shut down now, and we would like to know more about this. I myself have been questioned through my friends and a lot of people from abroad what is going on in the country. So
yeah, excellent point. From what I understood, actually hear from the general manager of the channel, that when the insulting film, slanderous film, if we can even call it a film, was launched via YouTube against the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was a lawsuit filed in Egypt because YouTube allowed this video to go on and for so long, and it created a big hysteria. And as the viewers can see now, the images of the protest that took place in front of the U.S. Embassy. So I guess the result of this lawsuit was to punish YouTube by banning it from Egypt for 1 month. So that's what I understood about it. If that's the right solution, Allah knows best. But that is what I heard about the YouTube situation here in Egypt, which will be shut down. They didn't say when, but they did say for 1 month. Now, brother, as far as Al-Azhar launching a special website, I don't have any information about that really. But to be honest with you, this is much needed news, because Al-Azhar, I feel like when you talk to students at Al-Azhar, Al-Azhar is really operating in a really old-fashioned way, and perhaps after the revolution they can modernize themselves and get doing distance learning and open up websites and attract funding and host more students, because Al-Azhar has been old-fashioned with their administrative techniques. So hopefully launching websites, and this will help, inshallah.
A few days actually I talked to some of the administration bodies in Al-Azhar itself, and they said they are discussing so much about this. They are building a website to unify Muslims in one fatwa and everything. We're speaking about today, there is the first selection for the first elected mufti in Al-Azhar. If you know about this news, actually this was today only. You're speaking about a big organization, one of the biggest Islamic organizations in the world, and it has to have a basic rule in the Islamic world.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I certainly hope it modernizes and really takes its proper position and influences Muslims from all around the world and serves them and serves Islam. So having said that, we wish them the best at Al-Azhar, of course, and we'll see what happens with YouTube in Egypt anyhow. What's the next piece of news you have, Brother Ahmed?
So we're having now another piece of news about the UN, United Nations inquiry. Israel must remove all settlers from West Bank. So, do you have anything about this, or?
I have. So just my personal thoughts, brother. And we see the images of the settlements.
Yes.
But I really believe this is a joke. It's an insult. come on, how many UN inquiries are we going to have? How many times did the UN say don't build settlements? Then the Israeli government launches. They just announced building 10,000 settlements and hotels and one of the last undeveloped pieces of land in the West Bank. It's a joke. We see Obama his first trip abroad will be to visit who? Will be visit Benjamin Netanyahu. To Israel. It'll be his first trip there overseas in a second term, setting the tone for his presidency. Really, there's UN inquiries. Obviously, the UN is a body without any teeth. Obviously, the Israelis act in accordance to their own agenda. They have the Americans there as a veto. As Ariel Sharon, who is now in a coma for the last 9 years, as he so eloquently said several years ago, when they asked him about the United States of America, he said, quote, "We control America." So, subhanAllah, I mean, for me, I'm sad that we keep reporting it. I guess we keep reporting it so people don't forget about it, because it seems like a lost cause, but inshallah, it is not.
Yes.
So that's my personal thoughts on that. If viewers can see these images of these settlements built on occupied land, subhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with the brothers in Gaza, in West Bank, and inshallah.
And we hope the Arab Spring, we did see the Arab Spring improve that. We did see your country, Egypt, play a role in brokering peace with the latest one-sided assault on Gaza. So we hope with the Arab Spring, the developments, we know the Israeli military position has gotten stronger than last year and 2 years ago, but their political position has gotten weaker.
Yes.
But having said that, let's just ask Allah to help them and go to the next news piece, inshallah.
To the next news. So it's all about a short chapter in the last portion in the Quran, which say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. Back to these verses in this chapter, which called the earthquake. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. When you see the earth is shaking, the last and the final shake. وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا, and there's hurricanes and everything come out from the earth. You will see more and more about this I think the brother, they have a report about this, and it's all about frequent earthquakes, hurricanes, typhoons and tsunamis are all in 1 week. And with hundreds in some places. This is the Quranic prediction which I mentioned now, and subhanallah, it's a prophecy from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we saw dear Shaykh Yusuf Eswa was speaking about this in the Islamic Newsroom website, and if we go back to the governmental earthquakes watchers, you will find on their website they have hundreds, and if you just check the whole earth, you will find, subhanallah, many and many in so many places in the world, and it wasn't with this way before.
Yes, subhanallah. And you can see those images are really descriptive and illustrative of the damage. I mean, I believe 7 on the Richter scale is a massive size. Earthquake, of course, being islands, it then facilitates tidal waves and other storms, subhanallah. So having said that, brother, as we wrap up that video, what about our next piece of news, which brings us back to the Arab world in Tunisia?
So it's Baladi assassination sparks crisis, and Tunisia faces general strike. Back to this news, we will see, subhanallah, in Tunisia now, Tunisia is facing one of the biggest, maybe the worst general strike because of the assassination of an political activist and lawyer, former lawyer, Shukri Baladi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with the brothers in Tunisia, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them and direct them to the right passage, and I hope it's not the Arab winter. We passed the Arab Spring, but I hope we don't pass the Arab winter.
Well, I hope the Arab Spring, I hope it turns into the Islamic summer.
And Islamic summer,
But you know, a lot of people, I read some articles really funny called the Arab Spring turns into the Islamic summer. Having said that, if we can recall, Tunisia was actually the spark of the Arab Spring. I know the major revolution that really tipped things over was in Egypt, but really the spark was in Tunisia. So having said that, I mean, Tunisia is a focal point of this whole thing. From what I understood of the assassination of this character, this man was a liberal, secular, political figure. So people now are in a great uproar. They don't know who killed this man and why. It's put the government in a
There's many actually stories about this. Some people, they say they are Islamists, but there is no witness.
No evidence, right.
And there is no evidence for that. And if you remember, we were speaking about some patrols in UK before.
Right.
And when we spoke to the brothers from UK, they said, we know nothing about that.
Right.
And now when we I spoke personally to some brothers and friends from Tunisia, and they said, there is no evidence against anyone, which is something you have to ask yourself about this. If this real enemies of this guy, maybe some people, they would like just to make big propaganda and uproar against Islamists.
Right, right.
We have many questions about this.
And we have to remember too, the governments of Egypt and Tunisia, although perhaps many people may not be happy with the elections of Islamic-leaning governments in the Western world,
yes,
they were democratically elected governments as a result of these revolutions. So we have to take that in consideration. Just like in Tunisia and Egypt, these governments were elected by the people in a totally legitimate way. So we hope that this doesn't destabilize this country, and we hope it can move forward in a stable way to build prosperity again and give the people back some sort of regularity in their lives, because we still see a lot of terrible things happening in Libya, Syria, where there's no stability and doesn't look like there will be soon.
Everywhere in any place had an Arab Spring before, or revolutions against dictatorship, and subhanallah, now we see a lot of dictatorship went and Islamists came over, Islam came over in these places, and subhanallah, with the choice of the nations themselves.
Yeah, subhanallah.
And with, as we say, with elections.
Yeah.
So why do you fight the elections if you are speaking about democracy? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the right for this country.
Thank you so much, Fawzi. That was an excellent point that you wrapped up this segment with. Brother, if you don't mind, we're going to stay with me, inshallah, in the next segment.
Sure.
I hope we can bring on actually an interesting character, Dr. Stef Keris, who is an expert in Islam in Europe, and we were going to talk about, inshallah, I hope, about Islam tracks Bulgaria's Roma population.
Exciting.
All right, you guys at home, stay tuned for more with Dr. Stef Keris on the Ummah tonight. Stay tuned.
In a game of golf, both the caddy and the golfer have the same goal: to get the ball into the hole. Interest-free banking is similar. With a clear view of the fairway, a predefined agreement without shifting targets, things should end up where you want them. Your deposits are safe, and your funds are ethically managed with a transparent and equitable approach to sharing risk and reward. No interest burden means more time to relax without the worry of nasty surprises. Rest assured, our interest is mutual. Jazz Bank, Nigeria's first full-fledged non-interest bank.
I've been asked today to talk about the Quran and the modern world.
The religion that is acceptable to Almighty Creator is Islam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
The more you know about him, the more you realize how you want to be like him.
For every messenger, a prophet that Allah has sent, Allah gave him one dua.
Allah sent prophets after prophet, messenger after messenger, to remind everyone, don't deny the Creator.
La ilaha illallah.
Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Thee alone we worship, and Thee alone we seek help.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Never on this planet walked such a person as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله.
I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, alone without partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his slave and messenger.
Welcome back to the Ummah tonight. We're joined by a very special guest, the host of Europe's Forgotten Heritage, as well as an all-new program, which you will see, inshallah, this Ramadan, titled The Spread of Islam. He's also the editor-in-chief of Ilm Islamic Lifestyle Magazine, which you can find and subscribe to, inshallah, on ilmonlinemag.com. I'm talking about none other than my good friend, Dr. Stef Keris. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Stef.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And you know, Brother Ahmed Fawzi, he has a lot of questions for you. So, brother, I'm going to let you go right ahead and hit Dr. Stef with our topic, which is, our topic, of course, is Islam attracts Bulgaria's Roma. Go ahead, Brother Ahmed.
We're having a lot to him, but actually I would like to indicate something. I noticed that he have a big beard, Bismillah, mashallah, and subhanallah, he's smiling. And this is something
very good.
Is it something new, something strange in Egypt nowadays?
They say all Islamists, all people, they have a big beard, they don't smile, they bad people, subhanallah. So we're having a smiley person, Bismillah, mashallah.
That proves them wrong, right? You see, there you go.
Subhanallah.
Thank you for the invitation, really much.
So before we come to the studio, we were speaking about Islam in Europe, and I was asking you how many Muslims in Europe now, and what are the biggest area for Muslims in Europe. So would you like?
Okay, just very general. Of course, this is a big topic. Of course, that we started here. Now we're talking between 20 to 30 million Muslims. In the ocean of 500 million Europeans.
Okay.
So a tiny drop, actually, not more than 3 to 4% top maximum, but it's the equivalent in North America. Actually, more or less, is the same.
Okay.
The areas, the three biggest countries, or the countries with the biggest population of Muslims, is first of all France, 10%, then Germany, or some of them say the other way around, then Holland, Netherlands. Well, it depends. You know, it's very difficult. Statistics, you know, they can fool you. So we're not really sure 100%. You know, the data is not 100%. So we can say France, the Netherlands, and Germany are actually the countries in Europe which have most of the population of Muslims. Of course, the UK is following very closely.
But Dr. Stef, if you don't mind, you guys get in here. You said it's comparable to the situation in North America. Wouldn't you say that the European Muslims are more well established and they have bigger communities? And
well, with regards to the percentage,
okay,
it's more or less 3 to 4% in both areas of the world. With regards to establishment, not at all. I mean, in the US or North America, what we have third, fourth, fifth generation of Muslims, American Muslims, 100%. 60% of the Muslims in the US are African Americans, you know, who accepted Islam in the 20s, 30s, Nation of Islam that time.
Right.
Now, second, third, fourth generation down, these are American Muslims. They're born in Islam. There's no difference between Fawzi and him, you know.
Yeah.
So there is, if there are any statistics about Muslims by born and reverse in Europe?
Very difficult. Very, very difficult. It's really people like me who are trying to go deeper into, this, to do a research like this, because it is really difficult. Obviously, nobody in Europe is even allowed to ask you, what is your religion?
Right.
In the UK, now, the last census, they do ask you ethnicity, they do also ask you religion.
Oh.
But again, not everybody would fill in, not everybody would feel comfortable to really fill in Muslim, seeing the circumstances nowadays, and I don't blame anybody, really.
Of course.
But that's why it's extremely difficult. That's why I say we have to be really careful with these statistics, because what I consider authentic might not be necessarily authentic for you, because it comes from a certain source that you would not accept, for example.
Right, that's the game you play.
But we do have general ideas. We can really clearly say, with regards to reverts, we can clearly say, Germany, France, Italy, they hit the roof. No doubt about it. We're talking about most probably 500,000 French Muslims, not Algerians, 500,000 French Muslims, which is an incredible number. Around 300 to 400,000 Italian Muslims. Nearly 200,000 German Muslims. These are numbers, guys.
Yes,
this is not something, nearly 1 million in 3 countries,
yes,
1 million of reverts in Europe. And they are going to shape the future. These are the ones we need to shape the future, because we are the ones who understand our populations. We understand the languages. We are the ones who will promote Islam in the proper way, inshallah.
Yeah, excellent point. Brother, if you don't mind me getting in here, Dr. Stef, you did write a book called Europe Forgotten Ottoman Heritage, a historical guide to Ottoman Greece, which is available on Amazon.com. I own the book. It's an amazing work. It looks like you spent many years working on that. Well, it's an amazing book. So Islam attracts Bulgaria's Roma. Can you just briefly describe who is Bulgaria's Roma, and perhaps talk about the situation of Islam in Greece, your native country, and Bulgaria?
Okay, interesting news, really. Bulgaria, first of all, is a Balkan country, okay, in the north of Greece. It has itself already around 20% Muslims.
SubhanAllah.
Or had. The point now in the 90s, as many might know, in the 90s they tried to get rid of the indigenous Muslim Turkish-speaking population. Okay, they call them Turks, as everybody in the Balkan does. Okay, we have like Muslims in Albania, we have Muslims in Bosnia, we have Muslims in Kosovo, Montenegro, in Greece, and so on. Everybody calls them Turks. But that's not entirely true. But many of them in the 90s, when they were persecuted and had to change their names and all this, happened in Bulgaria just some years ago, some decades, 1 or 2 ago, they actually decided to go to Turkey. Many of them, after the situation in Turkey, decided to come back again. So that did not help the reputation, I think, of Turkey. But in Bulgaria, yes, Roma. These are what we commonly call gypsies, basically.
Okay.
These are people who, not only in Bulgaria, but also in the entire Balkan region, but also in Greece, many of them are attracted to Islam, mashallah, simply because if we look at the history of Islam, who has accepted Islam? Who were the first people to accept Islam? It was not among the poor, the rich aristocrats and among the rich, the Quraysh. No, it was rather the poor, persecuted, second class citizens.
People looking for justice.
And this is what happens most probably now also in Bulgaria, as it did in Greece or does in Greece. The Roma population, the gypsies, are the ones who feel attracted towards Islam because it gives them justice, mashallah.
Right. They're looking a way out of the racism and oppression. Go ahead, brother.
A few days ago we were speaking about Turkey would like to support Greece to build a mosque. We're speaking about 200 mosques in Greece, as you mentioned before. But what is the matter with Athens?
Well, look, Greece has an official Muslim minority, the only one that it officially recognizes. And it recognizes this Muslim minority as one minority, as an Ummah, actually, which is very, very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because we should consider ourselves an Ummah. Right. Now, be you Egyptian, Arab, Italian, Turk, whatever you are, we are all actually one Ummah, belonging in this Ummah, so we're all Muslims in this Ummah. So Greece does it for us. And I have spoken many times already to the muftis up there. We have 2-3 muftis in Greece in the north, where most of these Muslims live, and that's where most of these mosques are.
Is there a rule for a mufti to be a mufti, or it's just an election?
No.
They have an official mufti, right, doctor?
They do have 3 official muftis, actually. There are 2 cities and 1 smaller town, the Demotechos, which has a mufti. So there are 3 muftis in Greece.
But they are ethnic Greeks or no?
They are not ethnic Greeks, you know. All three of them, actually two of them, the third one too is a Pomak. These are Pomaks, not even of the Turks, of the minority speaking Turkish speakers. Not even them, they are Pomaks. But this is all done by the government. So this is all a game again. You know?
So, Doctor, how did they survive the population exchange between Greece and Turkey? How did these Muslims survive when millions of people were forced to go to and from?
Well, you mentioned something. I'm sure that most of the viewers don't even know what you're talking about. Population exchange. You know, 1923, a very important thing happened. The new Greek and Turkish government, the time Ataturk, Venizelos in Greece, they agreed that the Muslim element in Greece has to move to Turkey and the Christian Orthodox element has to move to Greece. Now, I chose my word carefully because indeed there was nothing like, because there were Greek Muslims as well, we should not forget this. And Greek Muslims were forced out of their home countries and home islands. Crete, for example, was 50% Muslim, but they were all Greeks. They didn't speak a word of Turkish, and they had to go to Turkey. Until nowadays, we have Cretan people speaking their dialect, Cretan dialect, Cretan Greek, you know, don't speak Turkish. And so why the hell, really? I mean, this is something that I keep asking myself, you know, why don't you see? Why don't people see that what happened was a big injustice at the time? And it's not really mentioned nowhere, actually. This is some population exchange, that's it. It's a nice word, it's a euphemism for something, actually ethnic cleansing. You mentioned before the ethnic cleansing. It was an ethnic cleansing.
So how did they survive it, Doctor? How did they not get exchanged, so to speak?
Well, the ones who made it on the other side, because many of them died on the way, the ones who made it on the other side, in the end, we know that many of these Cretans, for example, set up businesses. The question is, of course, where did they find the money? They were refugees, but somehow, many of them got some money and somehow set up businesses in Turkey. We know nowadays there are quite some restaurants out there owned by Cretan Muslims.
Right.
Some of them put themselves into associations so they could help each other and support each other. And they had to, unfortunately, for the Turkish state to be accepted and get support, they had to admit that they are Turks.
Right.
Because that time, Turkey, until nowadays even, Turkey is following a kind of nationalization process, which means everybody who lives in Turkey is supposed to be Turk.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, I would like to go back to the same issue. We got your thoughts about speaking about the problem of
the mosque
in Athens.
Right.
So we would like
Brother Ahmed mentioned there's 200 mosques in the north.
That's right. All in the north. That's correct.
Why not in the city of Athens? What's the big deal?
Okay, all these 200 mosques are all in a location which is called Thrace. This is all towards the border of Turkey, between Bulgaria and Turkey, basically in the north of Greece. Whereas from Thrace down, you know, the rest of Greece, 85 to 90%, going from Thessaloniki, the second biggest city, to Athens, there's not even one mosque. Not even one. Now, and we're talking about 500,000, most probably 500,000 Muslims in Athens. Okay, very difficult again for the number to make sure that we know the number, the exact number, because we have a lot of illegal immigrants.
The last one I read was about 300,000.
Yeah.
So it's a sizable number.
This is most probably the legal ones. The legal ones.
I mean, we have maybe cities.
Yeah, absolutely. We're speaking about quite a big population living in one city, in the capital. And even if we keep saying that, I mean, we have a brother down in Athens who keeps making dawah down there, and we keep saying, I mean, even if we are just 2 Greek citizens who are Muslims and demand a place of worship, we have the right to get it according to our constitution. So why don't you build us at least one place?
And why would you ask a foreign government to fund it? It's a Greek citizen. They're not Turkish people, with all due respect. So why would the Turkish government, I know that's a gesture, it's a political game, so why would the Greek people expect Turkey to fund a mosque in Greece when the mosque is being built for Greek citizens?
Well, honestly, nobody expects this. Nobody says that we expect from Turkey or from Egypt or whatever.
Now from Turkey to
It's a
political game.
No, what it is, just make this clear here. Already in the 19th century, there was an agreement signed between Turkey and Egypt and Turkey, and between Greece, Egypt and Turkey. The Egyptian government had agreed to build a masjid in Athens, and the Turkish government has agreed to build a masjid in Athens. And these forms exist. Okay, these are documents, and they had been signed already in the 19th century. So that means there has been an obligation on both governments, you know, towards the Muslims in Greece to finally build this mosque. We have been waiting for them. Now, I don't think we should be waiting for any of these governments. I think we should finally, as Greeks, come together and make a mosque for ourselves. We need a mosque for us. We don't need a mosque for the Arabs. We need a mosque for the Greeks who are living in Greece. So, and especially in Athens, you know, and anybody else basically. It's not a... Yeah.
Honestly, we're having maybe this problem when we speak about Christians in Egypt, and they are a minority in Egypt, and when they say we would like to have a church, a lot of Muslims, they say we don't have a problem with this, and it's something related to the government permissions.
Right.
What I mean, what are the advantages of having a worshipping place for a minority, and what are the disadvantages of not having something like that?
And if I can mention also, the Christians of Egypt have thousands of churches that are massive,
yes,
and more and well beyond the capacity that is necessary, whereas the Greek Muslims don't have one.
It is indeed ridiculous to talk about being a part of the European Union, being a country of the European Union, and getting funding from the European Union, and being the only capital in the European Union, Athens, which doesn't have an Islamic center. Even Serbia, Belgrade, and we all know about Belgrade, and we know about Serbia. Even Serbia, Moscow, they all have Islamic centers.
Even Rome.
So why can't even Rome? It's in front of the Vatican. There is a massive Islamic center. Why can't we in Athens, which has more than 400 years of Ottoman history behind, that passed more than 400 years already. So why can't we as Greeks have something which is our right as Europeans? This is our right. The European Constitution gives us this right. And being a European country, we cannot compare ourselves to any non-European country. You cannot come as a Greek and say, listen, our brothers, Christians, whatever, in Tunisia don't have, which is nonsense. But they
always
say
bring this argument.
But then the other thing that they also say, well, if you built a church in Mecca, we built you a mosque in Athens, which is absolute nonsense. Because what do I have to do with a church in Mecca? Right? Yes. First. Second of all, it's a European country, we keep saying. Now, do you compare yourself to Saudi now suddenly? Now, suddenly you compare yourself to Saudi Arabia on the same level or something? No. Now, third, that's our right. That's again according to the Greek and to the European Constitution. So these are massive points against it. This is just emotional arguments that have no basis whatsoever.
Yes,
no basis whatsoever. And it keeps annoying me every time to hear the same nonsense. That it doesn't change at all. It's always the same argument. If you build us one church in Mecca, we build you a mosque in Athens. Well, then all these mosques that have been built in the rest of Europe shouldn't have been built then. And we're talking about thousands. So,
yes. Go ahead, brother.
Actually, when I traveled, and I mentioned that before to my brother Malik, when I traveled to the US the first time, it was so hard for me to not having a worship place in the area I have. And there were like about an hour distance between my home and the mosque or the masjid.
Yeah.
So I felt myself the difficulties and the problem, if I would like to say about this or give it a term, a problem of not having a worshiping place. It's something necessary to myself as a Muslim. Would you like to share about those people's problem or speak about these problems?
Because
you have a lot about this.
Because Dr. Stef, I did see online in Athens. There's many makeshift basements that are turned into prayer halls, which are then shut down because they're unofficial. Then I did see when they try to pray the Eid prayer outside, people were throwing things and cursing them.
Yes.
So they really have no place to assemble, and then this results in making illegal places. And
absolutely true. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yes, all these makeshift places. I mean, more than 200, 250 or something like this throughout Athens, which indicates also the massive number of Muslims in Athens. Right. There is nearly no place in Athens anymore that doesn't have a makeshift mosque. I mean, there is no place like this anymore. Anywhere you go, you will find something somewhere, seeing some Muslims going to pray, which is unacceptable again for a European country. I mean, again, I keep saying that European country. We're European since 1981. We were in the European Union already before Spain and Portugal. And in Portugal is a massive center in Lisbon with 1% of Muslims. Portugal has nearly no Muslims at all, but they have a massive Islamic center in Lisbon. Spain, okay, we know Spain because of its past, of course, also. But Spain has 20,000, 30,000 reverts, you know, a number of, well, maybe 1 million, 1.5 million Muslims. That's fine. But throughout Spain, look at Spain nowadays. I mean, Spain and Greece, 40 million Spaniards, 10 million Greeks. It's a big difference. There's a big difference in population. So obviously, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is something that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Dr. Stef, your book, Europe's Forgotten Heritage, as being Greek as well, my father's from Greece, and my mother as well, as you know, when I said to myself, what Ottoman heritage is he talking about? I want to see this book. And then I flipped through that book, and I realized there's so much beautiful Ottoman history of Greece that it's derelict. They're not fixing it all. They just leave it there. So perhaps you can take us through your travels a little bit, some of the monuments there. What is the state of them? Are they being fixed? Are they just left derelict to be...
It's really a good question. No, well, yes, what's happening in Greece now is next to the mosques that existed in the north in Thrace, in the area which I mentioned before, which are used by the Muslims. Next to them, basically everything else. Throughout Greece, we can find quite some of this forgotten past, really. We can find quite some of the reminders of the Ottoman Empire. Even in my hometown, where I come from, in Arta, which is not far from the Albanian border, you will find a mosque in my hometown. People, I mean, my cousin grew up there, and I had to take him there. He didn't know of its existence. It was somewhere hidden in the bush. Yeah. It was a massive emirate. Unfortunately, I was not prepared to bring. Unfortunately, it would be great to have the video here, a photo or something, unfortunately. Yeah, so they are there. And we're talking about most probably around 210, 220 monuments throughout Greece.
And would you say most people know about these monuments?
No, not at all. I have no idea.
SubhanAllah.
No idea at all whatsoever. As I said, my own cousin who grew up there, I had to take him there.
And they range from mosques to what?
They range from mosques to emirates. The Turks, the Ottomans used to have this kind of soup kitchens, actually, emirates, where it would be, you would have a masjid, you would have a library, you would have study facilities, but also facilities for poor people to come and eat, to get some soup or get some. So all this, a whole complex, and you might see still the mosque standing there. You might see still the minaret being there somewhere hidden between the bush. You might see something like a dome without a minaret. So all these things.
I saw something. It was recorded for Al Jazeera by brother Hisham Eid. He's a director at Al Jazeera. SubhanAllah, when I saw something like that, I was fascinated to see minarets and to see mosques. It's really old and express the old Islam in this area, in this era. And SubhanAllah, but what I know from him, and when he started to mention many things about his visit, he told me that they have some difficulties of knowing the right Islam itself. So what about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's like the whole Balkan, the whole Balkan region is like this a little bit. Don't forget that most of the countries in the Balkans used to be countries under communism. And Albania, for example, was strict Stalinism, strict. I mean, there was absolutely no way of any religion at all. All the churches, mosques, everything was closed down. There were even, I mean, bad things happened to them. Greece was not a communist country, but because of its discriminatory policy that it has towards Muslims, Muslims were trying even to get away from the identity of being Muslims. Okay, and they would either hide behind the identity of having another ethnicity, being Turks or Pomaks or whatever, or some of them, especially the younger generation, would just assimilate, into the Greek society and just go under, maybe change even the name and just get a Greek name. So yes, it is really a big issue, and this has to do with we have no real Ummah. The Ummah is not united. We have nobody who cares about this, actually, to be honest now. Nobody cares about that, And there is nothing like an association, organization, help from outside, nothing at all. I mean, if you talk to, for example, I went to Medina to talk to some of the shuyukh there. If you ask them about how many Greeks they had at the university, he could give me a number of 3 or 4 of them who all were non-Greeks. They were all of Turkish origin. So that shows the ignorance again, I mean, these people go back to Greece. We have many of them who have been to Medina already. They have come back to Greece and go and work on the field of their fathers. I mean, that's not what they want to do in Medina for. They come back, no dawah at all. Because they fear the Greek government. Things have changed, yes, things have changed. But still, we're still far behind.
We see that the Greek government and the Greek people in the Church of Greek Orthodox Church have made like a systematic blackout of their Ottoman history. So take us into the psyche of the average Greek person. Why this massive blackout against Islam in their Ottoman past?
It's not so much against Islam as it is against the Turks. It is more an ethnic thing. It's more a nationalistic thing. It's really not so much Islam. If Islam hadn't come out the way it has come out after 2001, after September 11, believe me, if you talk, I remember the time before when we were speaking to Greeks and you were talking about Islam, it was something different. We were talking about Islam and we were talking about Turkey. Okay, now it's one thing, one and the same thing, and couldn't be worse. These Turks, these Muslims, these are all the same, they're bloodthirsty, blah, 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 blah. So it was not an issue of these Muslims, but now it's these Muslims, and the Turks and everything. But the main thing is the Muslims nowadays. Yeah.
Dr. Stef and Brother Ahmed, you know what really amazes me is when you see an educated Greek person and when you ask him about the Ottoman past, he'll go into all the myths and propaganda he learned as a child. Do you think your book will help kind of change the mentality and psyche, and will it ever change for the Greek people to have a positive look at their Ottoman past and say, you know what, it's in the past, they left beneficial things for us, and not have this kind of hate? Do you think that will ever change or no?
Inshallah, yes. Inshallah, yes. Just to mention an example, when I was in South Africa some time ago, and I had a lecture there was a Greek lady in the audience, non-Muslim, and she came to me and congratulated me, basically. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Stef. If you take a look at the screen now, the viewers see some Greek. Is this in Greece?
Oh, Salonika, that's it. That's the White Tower of Thessaloniki. That's right. Yes.
Is that an Ottoman artifact?
Well, it is during the time of the Ottomans. It was built. Yes.
Okay, excellent. It's beautiful.
It used to serve as a prison, actually, and now it's the monument of Salonika, of the second biggest city.
Was it the glory era for Islam this time, or?
Yes, you can say yes. It was because I mean, whatever the flaws and whatever the problems were of the Ottoman Empire, still, they represented the Islamic Khalifa. They were the last ones. So they basically, yes. I mean, you can clearly say, yes, they did a lot for Islam also.
SubhanAllah.
Yes,
I mean, we have about 2 minutes left. Dr. Stef, if you could, we interrupted you there. You said you were in South Africa talking to a Greek woman. If you could complete that story.
Yes, this Greek lady came up to me and she thanked me and congratulated me for the lecture. She was not a Muslim and she was so happy to hear finally the truth, she said to me. I'm quoting her. And she was like, finally I hear a Greek guy talking about this stuff, and finally I hear what I believe myself. I said, MashaAllah, this really brings tears to my eyes. The other thing is, I heard again, even in Greece, nowadays things are changing. But what they're doing in Greece, they politicize issues. So when a certain production team comes up and makes a documentary or something, as it happened last year, and they came out with this, suddenly they were attacked by right-wing, especially politicians. Nowadays, we have a lot of them. They were called communists, they were called God knows what, against the nation, and so on and so on.
Okay, if you could take a look at that as well.
There we go, yeah. This is, the Central Mosque of Athens. Very tiny one, of course, still, nowadays.
It's in operation or it's a museum?
No, it's a museum nowadays, right. It's a museum of ceramic art, yes.
An old Ottoman mosque, I imagine?
It's an Ottoman mosque, yes, right. In the background, where we can't see it, but further in the background, there's the Acropolis.
So SubhanAllah. And which was a mosque, wasn't it?
Which was exactly very good. Yeah, it was a mosque for a small period of time. It was used as a masjid. They had put a minaret on top of it.
And there's a minbar inside, isn't there?
That's right.
And the Venetians bombed the Acropolis, not the Turks. They always say the Turks did, but it was actually a Venetian general just playing games, wasn't he?
Very true. Well, playing games. They were fighting. They said, but yeah, they didn't have to destroy it.
And real quickly, Doctor, and I'm sorry, I know I talk too much. I just have so many questions for you. Do Turkish people like you speaking about the Ottoman history? Do they say, hey, what's this Greek guy talking about our history for? What do you say about that?
Well, it's a very good. It's really good what you're saying there. Well, with regards to my lectures abroad, I did have Turks sitting in the audience who came and actually were quite upset with me because I came up with some of the problems of the Ottoman Empire, like, for example, having a sultan who was actually a drunkard, and I mentioned that, and they didn't like this very much. But yeah, I mean, we are here. I'm not there to cover the Ottoman history and make it look better than it really is, and then make the Greeks look bad. That's not the idea. I mean, I'm here as a Muslim, and I kept saying that I'm a Muslim. I'm looking as a historian also, I'm looking into the Ottoman history, so I have no right to cover up anything. If it's okay, I say it. If it's wrong, I say it as well.
But the Greeks should take back, it's their history. They should take ownership of it, because we can even say the Ottoman Empire is a Greek empire, which I heard you say on your program, isn't it? Because we have a lot of sultans that were Greeks, right?
Well, we should not forget that Orhan, I keep saying that, and it really, really drives them up the hill.
The Greeks and the Turks.
The Turks especially. The Greeks love something like that. There we go.
Yeah.
No, but it's always like this. When I keep saying Orhan, I want to know, Orhan married a Byzantine, a Greek princess.
Yes.
And this Greek princess gave him sons, and these sons were the following sultans. So hey, according to our constitution, they had Greek blood. So wait, after Orhan, the Ottoman Empire was a Greek empire. So mashallah.
Brother Ahmed, doctors, if you bring a Greek guy on the show, he always finds a way to tie in Greece.
To put Greece in there.
I should get out of this.
Brother Ahmed, Fawzi, thank you for your time, brother. I look forward to having another episode with you, inshallah, next week, inshallah. Dr. Stef Keris, always a pleasure. I want to remind the viewers to pick up your book on Europe's Forgotten Heritage, an historical guide to Ottoman Greece, as well as get online at www.ilmonlinemag.com.
Jazakallah khair.
Well, Jazakallah, thank you for your time, Dr. Stef. I certainly appreciate it. You guys at home, I certainly hope you appreciate another interesting episode of the Ummah tonight. So until next time, I leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.